Well, good morning, everybody. Well, it's morning here still, or is it? No, it's afternoon. I am Louise Edington, the Cosmic Owl of Cosmic Owl Astrology, and I've been doing a few less videos lately because, quite honestly, I've been a little bit burned out by all this energy. But I'm also preparing for my Venus Retrograde Heroines Journey, which begins in just 8 days on February the 25th. And so we are looking today at the new moon that's on February the 27th, which kind of launches the class. So check out the details below if you have not registered yet. This is a journey of immense initiation and healing. I bring all of my tools to it. I bring my shamanic work, my astrology, my study of myth. Also, I have specific tarot decks I use through all of it and give you specific guided exercises so that you can make this journey your own, but it's also in a community. It's the most magical experience, honestly, and it's my 6th time of running it. And this Venus retrograde is off the charts. So I will start by looking at the chart for the new moon because this is kind of launching that period. Okay, so let's have a look. All righty. So it's a Pisces new moon at 9 degrees 40 minutes of Pisces. But look at all of this. I've highlighted all of this in pink. Ceres, which is our needs met and unmet. She's also associated with grief and loss, but also forgiveness and reunification. And she is involved in the Venus retrograde journey. So just note that. Then we have the sun and moon, of course, together. Then we have Saturn in Pisces still. Then we have Mercury in Pisces, which is heading towards Aries, because Mercury is going to go retrograde while Venus is retrograde too. Then we have the North Node in Pisces and Neptune in Pisces. This is just wild, this much Pisces, to be quite honest. But also Venus is at 10 degrees Aries, which is the degree she is going to station retrograde at on March the 1st. So she is just a couple of days away from stationing retrograde on this new moon. She is at her station point. She is at a standstill. So we are entering this moment of just like so much disintegration, but also dismemberment and rememberment, if you want to call it that. And that's the collective journey of the Venus retrograde, but I've never actually kind of seen a Venus retrograde like this. So this is happening for you and for everybody. But this is just absolutely wild. But a couple of other things before we dive in. The new moon at 9, almost 10 degrees Pisces is in a square to Jupiter in Gemini. So that's its main aspect as well, to be quite honest. That is an aspect of change and adaptability because these are mutable signs. We could say that this is like adapt. It's time to be like water. I'm going to read that quote as well from um, Bruce Lee for this, but this is just. But before we get to the new moon, Mars is stationing direct on February the 23rd. So we've got Venus at a standstill and Mars at the station point as well. Mars has actually moved 6 minutes, but really this is, I usually go about 5 days either side of a retrograde station or a direct station. So Mars is still at the station point and Venus is still at her station point. So this is the divine feminine and the divine masculine. Also, Mars, when Mars stations direct, is in a lovely unbroken flow aspect to Vesta, both the inner flame and the flame of the hearth. But this is just mainly such a concentrated energy. I just wanted to show you what's changed at this point. But I will mention one other thing. This new moon is taking us into eclipse season. After this and during the Venus retrograde, we have a lunar total eclipse on March the 14th. That's at 23 degrees Virgo Pisces. So Mercury is pretty much on that eclipse degree where the sun will be on that next eclipse. And then we have a solar partial eclipse on March the 29th. That's at 9 Aries, pretty much where Venus is now as well. So this, I know I keep saying it. I know I keep saying it, but this time is unprecedented. A couple of other things though, before we dive into kind of talking about the numbers and all the things. This is a 9-year and it's a 9-day and it's at 9 degrees, but it's the 2 months, which is the divine feminine, 20, and it's a 2 universal day, 22, because it's 2 plus 0 is so if we add up all the numbers, it comes to 20, and then if we go that comes down to a 2, so it's a 2 again. All right, so yeah, you get the idea. So 20, we'll be looking at that, what the number 20 means in numerology, but then also the number 2. All right, so let's dive in because it's all 2s and all 9s. Okay, so let's look at the numbers first. So it's a 9 degree and it's a 9-day and a 9-year. So the 9 in numerology is a powerful number that it represents completion, growth, and evolution. It's also associated with altruism, balance, and perfection. And it's also said to be associated with the crown chakra, which controls universal love and spiritual awareness, which is also very Piscean in nature. And so this is a powerful number, but it definitely represents completion. But that, of course, also means evolution and new beginnings. Okay, so we have both of those kind of things happening together. Other things that about the 9, okay, so it represents forgiveness, the earthly lesson, and it's selflessness and compassion, all very Piscean as well. So this is the most Pisces new moon ever. And so it's also said to relate to the south node of the moon, which is opposing in Virgo, and the Hermit tarot card, and the color gold. So you could wear the color gold with this. There's also, of course, the shadow of the 9, which is disconnection, lethargy, and inability to concentrate and focus. And but it's said to be feminine and introvert and all kinds of things like that. So, you know, I could go on about the numbers, but really it's so related to the energy of Pisces as well. So Pisces energy, we have so much in Pisces, the North Node in Pisces here, which is what we are striving to do more of. And then we have Neptune in Pisces, finishing its journey in Pisces, because Neptune is going to dip into Aries during the Venus retrograde. Later this year, Neptune will retrograde back into Pisces briefly, but then is done. The journey that started in 2011, 2012. Then we've got Saturn in Pisces, breaking down boundaries and self-limiting beliefs. Mercury in Pisces is really definitely kind of connected to inner knowing and messages from source, spirit, whatever you want to call it. The sun is our core, the moon is our emotions, and then Ceres I've already talked about. We also have Nessus in there, Centaur Nessus, which I didn't mention. And Nessus is about revealing abuses of power, both from others and where you've abused your own inner power. But let's talk about the energy of Pisces altogether. It's a water sign. It's emotional, sensitive, intuitive, very tuned to vibration. The ruling planets are Neptune, the modern guide, or Jupiter, the traditional guide. And remember, this moon is square to Jupiter in Gemini, which is Mercury's guide, and Mercury is in Pisces. Those two are in what's called mutual reception. And so, this is Pisces is symbolized by the fish. Swimming in two different directions, showing the pull between things, such as the spiritual side and the material side, or one thing and another, and one person or another, or idea and another. However, Pisces is generally, the symbol is usually tethered together to show that neither is separate. In some ways, the symbol of Pisces with the fish swimming in opposite directions makes that yin-yang symbol, right? To show that everything is interconnected. All my relations, everything, plants, sky, earth, water, everything is interconnected. But this sign represents compassion, empathy, and sensitivity, but it also represents hurting and being hurt. It also can represent a sense of victimhood and has to do with suffering and healing. It can it's often represented by self-sacrifice, for an ideal, but it's also kind of ideologue, that higher ideals, but holding everybody to those ideals instead of stepping into that compassion, forgiveness energy as well. But it can be about sacrifice for a person or a cause as well. So it's intuition, it's dreams, it's visions, fantasy, imagination and creativity, magic, illusion, romance, drama, those with the ability to sway people's emotions, either by abusing their power or doing it for the good. Where it's kind of inspiration and spiritual, the mystical and otherworldly side. It's also escapism, intoxicants of all kinds, addictions, compulsions, cults, and the other side of the high spiritual state that Pisces can represent, that kind of being taken in and not being able to see clearly. All right. So it's, of course, a water sign, very emotional, compassionate, imaginative, etc. The colours for Pisces now are sea greens. Pisces also rules the feet and foot conditions, but it's a dualistic sign. It can be one of the very most beautiful, caring and spiritual, but it can be deceptive and self-defeating. Okay. So anyway, it's strong imagination, storytelling, but also kind of storytelling to pull the wool over people's eyes. So it's confidence men, liars, cheaters, alibis. So you can know what I'm thinking about if you know me. But just at any level, it's work that requires imagination. It's kind of stepping into that inner knowing. It's faith healing. And it's also related to oil products as well, just so I can, and chemical and liquids and oceans. Pisces is very related to role playing, caretaking, all things like that, fiction, music, pharmacology, interestingly, chiropodist, and physics in many ways. Now, I could go on with all of those things, but you can go and read about Pisces. It's also related to fantasy creatures, especially water related, so mermaids, for example. Chiron's wife, Chariclo, was actually a sea nymph, so it's that kind of energy, very fluid. Okay, so it's related to ballet and seduction and pilgrimages, also imprisonment as well, interestingly. But again, I could go on and on and on. And alcohol, drug use, neurotic people, exaggerating, impractical, unfocused. It's all Walter Mitty type characters, right? So, but it's also related to holy water, secret societies, and temples. and jails, prisons, asylums, all those kind of things. So I think you get an idea about the energy of Pisces. It's the last sign of the zodiac. It's almost like every part of the zodiac is contained in Pisces. But it's also the amniotic fluid, and it's the chaos from which we're born. So all of this conflagration of energy in Pisces, and the fact both Venus and Mercury are going to retrograde back into Pisces at the same time as the North Node is there with Neptune, and it's aspecting the co-guide for the sign Pisces, Jupiter in Gemini. This is one of adaptability, adapting to where we're at, the situation, and kind of moving like water. And so I want to read you this quote actually. So I actually shared it in my Substack today. I hadn't heard of it before, but it's very appropriate. I always liked Bruce Lee, actually. So be like water, making its way through cracks. Do not be assertive, but adjust to the object, and you shall find a way around or through it. If nothing within you stays rigid, outward things will disclose themselves. Empty your mind. Be formless, shapeless, like water. If you put water into a cup, it becomes the cup. You put water into a bottle, it becomes the bottle. You put it in a teapot, it becomes the teapot. Now water can flow or it can crash. Be water, my friend. And that was from Bruce Lee. And that's very much a kind of martial arts kind of thing where you have to learn to kind of flow. That's why martial artists can usually cut through wood and things like that with their hands. I don't recommend trying it, but it's because they are flowing with the energy and they are tapping into the quantum energy of the universe, right? Removing any blocks to going with that flow and to being adaptable. This is just saying, we are in a time of dissolution and many endings and many beginnings. And wherever Pisces is in your chart will be the big focus of this, but also Gemini. But for example, this is in my third house, all this Pisces energy. And this is saying, let go of some old beliefs and start to have trust and faith in what's emerging. This is why the word emergence has been coming, because everything in our creation myths, if you think about all the creation myths, not just the Christian one, okay, from around the world, like for example, the Australian, the Aborigines talked about the dream time. Many of them, Venus came out of the water, okay, was born from the oceans. Most creation myths are about creation from chaos. You can kind of look a lot of them up, but most of the earliest beginnings, the myths and stories around the earliest beginnings of the present world are about coming from chaos, from water, from the oceans, from the dream time, and finally kind of all the particles kind of coming together from this chaos of the cosmos to form what we see or know as the world. So a lot of them are on Wikipedia. So there's many coming from chaos, okay, for example. And so Greek myths, and that's from chaos, the Korean myths, lots of cultures. There's also earth divers, which comes from the Iroquois and things. The ones I kind of like best at the moment are the Maya and the Hopi and the Navajo or Diné and the Zuni, and they are about emergence. So let me read you kind of the Hopi one for a start. According to Hopi legend, when time and space began, the sun spirit Tawa created the first world in which insect-like creatures lived unhappily in caves. With the goal of improvement, Tawa sent a spirit called Spirit Grandmother to the world below. Spider Grandmother. Spider Grandmother led to the first creatures on a long trip to the second world, in which they took on the appearance of wolves and bears. As these animals were no happier than the previous ones, however, Tawa created a new third world and again spent Spider Grandmother to convey the wolves and bears there. By the time they arrived, they had become people. Spider Grandmother taught them weaving and pottery, and her hummingbird brought them a fire drill. So, this, and then we did emerge into the fourth world that we are in now. And according to the Hopis, evil broke out amongst the people in the third world. With the help of Spider Grandmother or bird spirits, a hollow bamboo reed grew at the opening of the third world into the fourth world. This opening is traditionally viewed to be the Grand Canyon. Okay, so you can see how these, I could go on. You can go and read these myths yourself. I'm actually going to be talking about these myths in some of them in my Venus retrograde class as well. I'll probably talk mostly about the Navajo creation story because I live close to the Diné people, okay, and amongst them, in fact. So the creation world, they too have four worlds. And so this is connected with Spider Woman, again, two coyotes, insects, first woman, first man, all these things that came into being in the Christian myth in some ways. But this is connected with a lot of nature. And they also have a great flood as well. So, but I want to fast forward, when the people arrived in the Force or White world, there were Anaya living there. The sacred mountains were reformed from soil taken from the original mountains in the second world. First man and the holy people created the sun, moon, seasons, and stars. It was here that true death came into existence when Coyote tossed a stone into a lake. That's the trickster, by the way, declaring that it sank. Then the dead would go back to the previous world. So, and going on and on and on. I'm not going to read them all now, but all these stories are about weaving and chaos and myths and pulling the pieces and the threads together. Incidentally, I've just ordered a new tarot deck for using in this powerful Venus retrograde, which is called the Red Thread Tarot. So we'll be talking about weaving all the parts of you together, but also the parts of the world, because it's all about healing from the inside out. So I've gone on and on, but you get the idea of, and that's very Pisces in itself. It's very vast and expansive, but it's all about this emerging and coming from chaos into Aries, the next sign, the first sign of the zodiac, where we will have the next new moon, which is a solar eclipse in the sign of Aries, which is the sign of new beginnings. So we are in a time of immense new beginnings, right? Okay, so I'm going to read the symbols. So again, check out my Venus course. I bring all of this into it. It's just quite amazing. But I want to bring you the symbols for this particular new moon. And remember, it is a new moon. So again, it is the start of this emergence. Okay. So it's an aviator in the clouds is the Sabian symbol. And this is about sailing through difficulties, the need for accurate navigation, being in charge of the controls, seeking higher truths, mastery, flight, navigation. But shadow is escaping responsibilities, all the things I talked about with Pisces, avoiding reality, unrealistic expectations. I actually mentioned that this morning, missing the point and evasive. So this shows being able to stay on course, not allowing distractions or difficult or confusing issues to deter you from your destination. Perhaps you need to rise above and transcend the more nitty-gritty realities of earthly existence and its difficulties, and just be aware that you may not be seeing the complete picture very clearly all the time. If you take special notice, you may be able to see through illusions, seeing past the surface appearances to things that others miss. You may be able to rely on your spiritual, creative, or intellectual skills to take you above and beyond these things that others have to deal with. However, you may also be avoiding the real truth. All right, Chandra symbol. Then I've got some cards to guide you for this new moon. So Pisces 10, we always go up. Okay, so the Omega symbol, but from John Sandbach, is a group of people practicing levitation, a little bit like the aviator. And he says this is interacting and inspired. And he said there is the knowledge that our belief system creates an environment that influences others, and that when we liberate our beliefs from limitations, it can stimulate the manifestation of creative powers in both ourselves and others. What makes it more possible to rise above the heaviness of the physical realm is to connect with others with whom we can share mutual support in the process of growing lighter in the Venus class. The Chandra symbol for this degree is an old witch on a windy promontory. She is calling to the sea. Many people tend to think the forces of nature are impersonal, but in fact they are directly connected to each individual. They are part of us and we of them, and only seem as strangers to us when we make ourselves strangers to ourselves by denying what is within. This degree is about communing with nature, not in a quiet, soft way, but directly, and we might say confrontatively. I don't know about that really. It's about calling on, working with nature. The Pleiadian symbol, which is the reworded aviator Sabian symbol, is a man soaring through the clouds on a glider. I like that it's a glider because that's very magic carpet ride, okay. And then the Azoth symbol. And according to John Sandbach, the Azoth symbol, he says, is the very innermost symbol of all these symbols. And as a man sleeps, an eye in the forehead opens. So this is also about what's coming in your dreams through your third eye, right? Through that one. Now, one other thing I do want to mention, I'm probably going to talk about it separately and other things, is that I set the Pisces new moon chart for Washington, D.C., and all the angles are at 1 or 2 degrees of cardinal signs: Aries, Libra, Pisces, and Capricorn. And that's also telling me that this is initiating, starting a new beginning. And all this Pisces energy in that chart is in the 6th house of meaningful work, right work, and service. And I do believe we are going to come through this in many, many ways. I would invite you, in fact, to, I've shared it before, because, sorry to go US focused, but the Sikh prayer for the USA. Okay, so prayer Sikh. It was around in 2016, and Sikh prayer for America. Okay, I'm going to read this and then show you the cards. Then I've really got to go. So you can look this up, A Sikh Prayer for America on November the 9th, 2016. In our tears and agony, we hold our children close and confront the truth. The future is dark, but my faith dares me to ask, what if this darkness is not the darkness of the tomb, but the darkness of the womb? What if our America is not dead, but a country still waiting to be born? What if the story of America is one long labor? What if all the mothers that came before us, who survived genocide and occupation, slavery and Jim Crow, racism, xenophobia and Islamophobia, political oppression and sexual assault, are standing behind us now, whispering in your ear, you are brave? What if this is our great contraction before we birth a new future? Remember the wisdom of the midwife. Breathe, she says, then push. Now is time to breathe, but soon it will be time to push. Soon it will be time to fight for those we love, the Muslim father, the Sikh son, the trans daughter, the indigenous brother, the immigrant sister, the white worker, the poor, the forgotten, and the ones who cast their vote out of resentment and fear. Let us make an oath to fight for the soul of America and the world, to be honest, the land that never has been yet and yet must be. Langston Hughes, with revolutionary love and relentless optimism. And so I pray this Sikh prayer. Nanak Nam Chadi Kala, Teri Bani Sabat Dabala. In the name of the divine within us and around us, we find everlasting optimism. Within your will, may there be grace for all of humanity. And that's, I'll share the link to that. Okay. This was by Valerie Kaur, and I will share the link in the description. It's always stuck with me, and yeah. So the cards for this new moon, this most Pisces of Pisces new moons that I've never seen it while I've been a professional astrologer, because the North Node is in Pisces for the first time, and Neptune is in Pisces together with it for first time in centuries. So anyway, I got the 10 of Bees, and this is I am revelation, but this is I got it reversed. So this is saying that revelation is going to come from within, through that connection with the divine, through that connection with nature. And then I also pulled 2 other cards for this. And so bear with me, I just have to find the vessels, which is the water suit, unsurprisingly. So I think the 10 of Bees card is really saying let go of that needing to kind of get the detail and trust that divine thing. Then we get 2 beautiful cards for this new moon. I am union. They both listened silently to the water, which to them was not just water, but the voice of life, the voice of being, and the voice of perpetual becoming. Hermann Hesse. And then we got the 3 of Vessels, and I swear I just pulled these. And this is I am friendship. A lifetime without love is of no account. Love is the water of life. Drink it down with heart and soul. And that's from Rumi. And so I hope I've inspired you on this new moon to just step into trusting and adapting and having faith. But also I do want to point out that this new moon is square to Jupiter in Gemini, and Gemini is rational thought and Jupiter is expansion. This is real mind magic. So if you haven't read the Doty book Mind Magic yet, it's in my Amazon store below in the description as well, or buy it elsewhere. I don't care. I get like 5 cents if people buy from my store. I get that a lot of people have left Amazon, that's fine. But this is this is saying heal from the inside out. This is endings of thinking we are in rational control and we are dominator individuals. We are all interconnected, and we can create magic ourselves if we adapt and have faith and trust and operate from love, forgiveness, and all those good things. Much love. Mwah.